everybody. Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, November the 17th, 2021, 1:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. I might need a haircut. I don't know. This is episode 201 of McRae Live. I know what you're thinking. McRae Live? What's going on? There's a McRae Live happening right now? There's a McRae Live happening right now. A little impromptu. I wanted to jump on here. There's some, I'm doing a bit of restructuring on the channel, and, the McRae Lives have slowed down a little bit just because things get busy, but I always try to jump on and do some live shows whenever I can, of course. And, I don't want to stop the McRae Lives completely, but I was going pretty hard there for a while. I mean, by my standards anyway, in terms of, obviously, if this is your full-time job, there are people that do these kinds of shows every day, 7 days a week sometimes. But I was doing like 3 shows a week there for probably almost, there was a couple of weeks where I missed 1 or 2, but it's going hard into the paint. So I had to take a bit of a step back, rejuvenate the juices. Rejuvenate the juices? Is that even a saying? I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, I had some time this afternoon and I wanted to jump on and talk to you guys. If you have a question you want me to answer, if you want it guaranteed to be answered, that's when you send in a super chat, and I will get to your questions at the end of my spiel, at the end of my commentary. I will get to your questions. Super chats are always guaranteed to be answered for obvious reasons. However, if you want to test your luck out, feel free to put a question to the chat, and maybe I'll see it and I'll have time to get to it. I like to be pretty thorough with my answers, though. That being said, Rocky IV. Halloween is done. Halloween, for God's sakes. Are you talking Halloween? No! Halloween is done, ladies and gentlemen. Let it rest. Let's not beat the dead horse. Let's not milk the udder where there is no milk, although some people like to do that. No, I love talking Halloween. You know that. But I wanted to talk Rocky IV. Rocky IV today. Rocky IV, I think, is the fan favorite of the Rocky series. Listen, there's no doubt that the original Rocky, the first 2 films, really are more dramas than they are anything else. I totally agree with Sylvester Stallone when he says that, Rocky isn't a boxing movie. It is, but it's not. Or like I get what he's saying. It's not a boxing movie. It's really a love story, and about these 2 people who meet each other, who are very similar in a lot of ways. And, it's about the belief. It's about believing in something and testing yourself and going the distance and seeing what you're made of and surrounding yourself with somebody who believes in you. And, it's a love. That's what it's really all about. And boxing is the catalyst that just drives that narrative. It could, Rocky could have been a baseball movie, a hockey movie, a race car drive movie. It just is the foundation for which they're telling the story, but it's more of a drama, really, at the end of the day. And I love the original film. I think it's probably the best film in the franchise in terms of just really what it's really all about. Although Rocky II is pretty damn good too. And then, of course, once you get to Rocky III, although it does make sense. Sorry, my glasses and the headphones, and it's a whole thing happening here. It's okay, there we go. It does make sense, though. When you get to Rocky III, and I'm talking about the theatrical cuts now, Rocky III, of course, is, it's that it starts to get a little sensational, to say the least, a little cartoony, right? You got Mr. T in there, and but when you look at the justification for it, it kind of makes sense too, because Rocky is now the world heavyweight is the heavyweight champion of the world. He's got money now, and he is, he's a different kind of person in a different point in his life. And so that sensationalism that you see in the movies, that cartoony sort of nature, that a little kind of over the top with, Hogan and Mr. T, is sort of, in many ways, a reflection of, where Rocky is in his life, that when you get to that stage, when you have a lot of money and you are the heavyweight champion of the world, and, you do get invited to all different kinds of places, and you meet all different kinds of people, and you get into all different kinds of things, and people wanting to pull you this way and pull you that way and pull you this way. So the sensationalism of the entertainment industry, which is what sports is at the end of the day, it's a business, but it is there to entertain. It's all under, again, there's many different facets of the entertainment industry, right? There's filmmaking, there's voiceover, there's sports and entertainment. It's crazy. And they're all connected in many different ways. That surrealism, or not surrealism, but that sensationalism of sort of where the Rocky franchise went, kind of, I don't know if it was deliberate. I don't know if it was this deep, if they were thinking like this, or if Sly was thinking like this. Maybe it was a little bit. I think part of it is it got more sensational because it just got more sensational and it was the 80s. But it works. It works for where Stallone is in his life, or where Balboa is in his life at that time. And then you get to Rocky IV, and Rocky IV is like the quintessential, it was like the peak of the Cold War, Russia versus the US versus Russia. You had all that shit in there. And, it really is more cartoony than anything else. The theatrical cut, right? It's over the top and it's sensational, but you love it because of that. I mean, the sound effects for the punches, it's like shotgun blasts going off. It's not realistic at all. It's hilarious, really, if you look at it objectively. But again, where is Sly at that time in his life, right? He's the world heavyweight champion. He's got this big mansion. The robot never bothered me, by the way. The robot never bothered me at all. I don't understand why people have an issue with the robot. It never bothered me. It just kind of, I don't know. It just made sense. It just not made sense, but it was like, well, I get it. He's fucking rich. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He's got this little robot that's fucking around. Like for me, it wasn't distracting. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't distracting to me. It was chintzy, sure, but look at the movie. I mean, look at the whole film, and we're complaining about a robot. And we're complaining about a robot? Like, come on. You know what I mean? So that never bothered me. And then Rocky V, of course, which they started to kind of pull it back a little bit. And then they did it right, of course, in Rocky Balboa in 2006. But Rocky IV definitely is that fan favorite. And I think there's a variety of reasons for it. The soundtrack is great. The music is great. The training montages are great. You have that, us versus them, good versus bad. It's clearly defined. DRAGO he's a archetypal villain. You know what I mean? They paint him in that way. And it's the fact that, they have the height. I mean, listen, Sly's not a very big guy. I think he's my height. But the height discrepancy between Stallone and Lundgren was not what it was in the movie. Stallone, they were a little closer in height, but of course they had one of them stand on a box. They had Hulk Hogan stand on a box too, to appear even larger than Sly. Like all that kind of stuff, right? Those movie tricks that you do to make it seem like a David versus Goliath kind of thing. It's fun. I like that kind of stuff. And I've always appreciated the pacing of the theatrical cut of 4. I've never, it is more cartoony, it is way more over the top, but it's like a guilty pleasure. It's just fun, it's just like, yeah, and who doesn't love a great redemption story? Because that really is what Rocky IV is about. And we'll get to Stallone's thoughts on Apollo Creed here and how he would have changed his mind if he had a chance to do it over again in terms of his death. I disagree 100%. I absolutely disagree with that. I think Apollo's death was crucial to the whole point. Could you have... Anyways, we'll get to that. But it's the redemption, right? It's like there's everybody loves look at John Wick, right? John Wick's dog is killed, right? And then he goes after the people that did it. Similar to Rocky IV, right? Apollo was killed, and then Rocky's like, fucking everybody, it doesn't matter. Pick your story where they have that kind of a narrative where somebody is killed, whatever it is, wife, friend, brother, sister, mother, father, you name it. and then they seek the revenge. You know what I mean? Everybody loves watching that because we all live vicariously through that. Like, you want to fucking go, you piece of shit. Come on. We all live through that, right? It's great stuff. So Sylvester Stallone announces that he's going to be doing the director's cut. He's taken Rocky IV and he's got enough B-roll where he can actually add scenes that were not there, like full scenes, not long scenes. I think the longest might have been even but at least he's got like a minute or two of footage from some of this stuff. And he wanted to, his excuse was that now that he's older, and he is in his 70s now, he looks at Rocky IV and he thought, you know what, it's not like Rocky 1 and 2, which is not. And he's like, you know what, I want to kind of tone it down a bit. I want to really kind of change it almost. Not change it completely, but he does change the feeling and the tone of the film for better or worse. And so I watched the director's cut the other night, and he wanted to, he had all this other footage with Apollo, and he wanted to kind of, shift the view of DRAGO just a bit, take out a few little, like take out the robot and take out a few things. Of course, by taking out the robot, you axe his son a lot too, because his son was in a lot of the scenes with the robot, so anyways, in a nutshell, he wanted to kind of mature the film up a bit, I guess. Make it a little more kind of in feeling like the first two films, maybe, in kind of feel and pacing and tone. So I was like, well, this is going to be interesting because that movie, I don't think was designed to be that way. So I was very curious to see how many scenes he could add, creating a little more breathing room for the characters to breathe and for the moments to breathe so they can sit with the audience, and how many more times he could do that, and or how he could do that, and how it would affect the film. So I'm mixed on the director's cut of Rocky IV. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's at the very least, it's an interesting experiment. But I don't think the film was ever designed to ever have that option. Now, obviously, he did shoot those scenes. They're not reshoots. I mean, they are scenes that were left on the cutting room floor that he added, and they do add more breathing room. But would they have replaced, like, in the theatrical cut, if those scenes had made it in, would other scenes have been taken out? Do you know what I mean? So the pacing and the feel of the movie would have remained the same anyway. I don't think the film was designed to be that way. I think it was designed to be a very specific kind of movie. I think it was designed to be over the top. I think it was designed to be us versus them, which you still get that, but very sort of, when I say cartoony, I don't mean like cartoony, but, cartoony. Like it was meant to be sort of very theatrical, and it worked. So when I watched it, I appreciated what Stallone was trying to do, and it definitely, the biggest improvement here, I think, is Apollo. I think Apollo is fleshed out more for sure. I really appreciate. I do like that Apollo is fleshed out a bit more, because we get more breathing time. We get more time with him, and we really kind of feel him. I don't think it was necessary to start the movie, but then at the same time, when I think back on it, I get it a little bit. To watch 5 minutes of the end of Rocky, or to watch 5 minutes of Rocky 3, I'm kind of like at the beginning of part 4, I'm like, I don't know. I like the Adrian stuff. I do. I like the stuff. I like the scene with Stallone and Talia Shire in the kitchen. That was a nice moment. I like the moment on the in the upstairs by the stairs where he's like, don't ask me to not be a man and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a nice moment. But I almost feel, and I'd have to go back and watch a theatrical cut again, but I almost feel that the perfect Rocky IV film, the real nice balance, would be just to throw this shit into the theatrical cut. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not have to make an adjustment here and there, but I almost feel like Rocky IV, and again, it could also be because I am so used to watching one version of the movie. You know, I'm used to watching this sensational, over-the-top theatrical version of a Rocky film, which is Rocky IV. And that's been in the pop culture zeitgeist for, 35 years. That's all we know. Whenever we watch Rocky IV, that's it. That is Rocky IV. So watching this version, it feels like Rocky IV has been injected with some Ritalin. And it's just calmer. It's not a sense, and that was designed that way, right? It's not like that's the point, was to mature it up, to tone it down, to make it, that was the point. And some of it worked, but I feel that some of it was lost. There was something missing from the film. And I think that injection of adrenaline is what makes Rocky IV so special and so cool. And I'm wondering, again, I'd have to watch the theatrical cut again. It's been a couple years, but I'm wondering if there is a way to have those dramatic moments that he puts into the director's cut into the theatrical cut without hurting the pacing too much, do you know what I mean? Like I'm wondering if there is a way to do that, because I will say that I do appreciate the punches more and the fight more. On both sides. I do like the fact that the punches, the sound effects are far more realistic. I appreciate that. And I think that's something that I would keep. If I was going to do like a hybrid of the theatrical cut and the director's cut, just to see if I can mesh the best of both worlds and see maybe then it's actually, wow, this is epic. You know what I mean? I would keep the sound effects from the director's cut for sure. Although maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a bit more. Because that kind of was part of but at face value, I think that's what I would do. I didn't not like the movie. I just don't think I would. I don't think it's going to be my go-to. Because I feel that the film is, it's missing something. And again, that could just be because, and likely is because, Rocky IV has such a specific identity to it, that it's this kind of movie. And when you inject it with Ritalin and tone it down, that's cool. It's an interesting experiment, and it's cool that we get to see a little more of Apollo and the funeral and it gives more meat to that. The stakes are now higher, but I wonder now if we could just cut from that right into the rest of the theatrical cut, and get into the sensationalism of everything. I wonder how that would play out. I don't know. But yes, for sure, the Apollo stuff is more fleshed out. The Apollo fight. And something I noticed too, there's a great documentary you can watch for free on YouTube. It's about 90 minutes. I think it's about that long. It's great. And it's all about Stallone putting this director's cut together. And, there's a scene in this documentary where, and I never noticed this because I think it's in the theatrical cut, where when Apollo, before he's about to fight DRAGO, he's like, I want you. And he lifts up his hand and he does that, but he doesn't have any gloves on. I actually do think it's in the theatrical cut as well. He has no gloves on. And then the very next shot, he's got gloves on. Big continuity mistake. I never noticed it before. And I'm not the only one. I don't even think Sly did. But what's fascinating is that, like, obviously the front shot of I want you, when he, his hand, that was shot way after the fact. That was either shot a different day or after they were done shooting something else. It was definitely not shot at the same time. And so he lifts up his arm and you see that he's got no glove. He's just got his finger. It's kind of, oh my God. Oh, that's a big mistake, right? Well, in this director's, documentary that's free on YouTube, Sly is like, oh, we got to take that out. Like, we have to, show that his arm's about to come up, but we don't actually see his hand, or maybe his arm is just coming down, but we don't see his hand or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I totally would do that. His hand is still in this fucking film. When you watch the director's cut of Rocky, you still see Apollo's hand come up without a glove. And I'm like, did did Sly give an order and the guy totally forgot? Or how did that end up in there? I don't know, but it's still in there. It's still in there. It's still in. I thought they were going to take it out. It's still in the director's cut. So I don't know. It's kind of strange. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting experiment. But I think what people love about Rocky IV so much is the way it was designed. You know, the way it comes off, the theatrical nature of it all. You know, the us versus them and them versus us, and the whole, you know, it's not like Rocky 1. It's not like Rocky 2. It's not even like Rocky 3. It is the most sensational, cartoony, over-the-top Rocky film of them all. But it is also the pinnacle of Rocky's wealth. It's the pinnacle of Rocky's fame. It's the pinnacle of Rocky's life. And when you think about, and I don't know if if Sly was going this deep with the layers when he was writing this. And he's a pretty smart guy. I know he gets a bad rap because of what happened to him at birth, and he's got, you know, the crooked mouth and the, you know, he kind of sounds a bit. And people have to remember too that when he's playing Rocky Balboa, like Sly already sounds like this. How you doing? Yeah, you know. He already sounds like that, right? When he's playing Rocky Balboa, people have to remember that he's hamming that up even more, because Rocky was supposed to be a bit of a simple guy from the streets. I don't mean completely dumb, but you know, he was just a simple guy. You know, he wasn't the smartest, you know, the sharpest knife in the drawer, as they say, right? And so when he plays Rocky, he tends to kind of do it up a little bit more, you know. This is the way he kind of hams that up a bit more, and he acts a bit more simple than Sylvester Stallone is in real life. He's a pretty smart dude, and so I don't know if he was thinking about that when he was writing Rocky IV in terms of the pinnacle, but it works. When you think of Rocky Balboa's journey and you look at the maturity of the films and how the films get less mature as they go along, that's because Rocky Balboa himself, I think, is less mature. He's inundated with money and fame and fortune and girls and not girls, but I mean attention, I guess I should say, from, you know, the media and all this kind of stuff, and so his lifestyle, which is over the top and sensational, matches the movie. You know, and I always saw it sort of like as a parallel to that. And maybe that is intentional. And then Rocky V, as we know, he's fallen back to reality. And that's why Rocky V is a bit more of I hate Rocky V, but they tried to go back to the roots, right? And of course, Rocky Balboa, which really should have been Rocky V, was brilliant. I love Rocky Balboa. Phenomenal film. So yeah, I like the director's cut as an interesting experiment. I think it's cool. You know, if it's on TV, you know, maybe. I don't think it will be. But I don't think it's something I will go out and buy. I have all the Rocky movies on Blu-ray. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I can't help but feel that maybe the best director's cut for this movie, as I said, is actually what he's done in the director's cut, adding it to the theatrical cut. Now, some of you might say, well, that is what he's done. It's still the same movie. I know, but a lot of the momentum and a lot of the sensationalism that he's taken out of the film, I would add back in. And, you know, I mean, it's not a completely different movie. It's more the first half of the movie. You know, once you get to the fight, yeah, the fight's a bit different and the sound effects are different and there are different shots for sure. Well, I guess I can't, you know what? I can't say that. It does end a bit differently too. Yeah. No, I would have, like, for example, right at the end when he's like, if I can change and you can change, everybody can change. In the theatrical cut, it's really like hyped up, right? It's really like, if I can change, and you can change, everybody can change. You know, whatever. I can't speak Russian. But he says this, right? And it's like, and everybody's like, you know, and it's epic. It's over the top. That would never fucking happen. Never in a million fucking years would that happen. but it's great. It's like Rocky solves the Cold War, you know, and it's just so great. You know, I would add that back in. All the sensational stuff that he's taken out to maturize it, that's not a word, but like maturize it a bit and keep it a little more kind of, you know, realistic. No, I would love to see that back in. I'd love to see it back in, because maybe that's the hybrid we need, is Apollo more fleshed out, right? So those scenes with him and all the sensational crap. Maybe that's like the best sort of, you know, I don't know. Yeah, the Slaughtered Lamb says it's a nice companion piece. I agree. I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's a really cool experiment. But Rocky IV there's just such an identity to it that everybody knows, you know, and I can't help but feel that it's kind of, isn't it supposed to be like that? I know it's the mid 80s and everything, including hair, is huge. But it worked. It worked because of where Rocky was in his life too, you know. Somebody's got to combine the scenes that were added with the rest of the theatrical cut. I just think that would be cool to see. So those are my first impression thoughts on the Rocky versus Drago Rocky IV director's cut. If you haven't checked it out, you can rent it. Yeah, I think you can rent it for like $7 or $8 or something like that on YouTube. There's other places you can find it as well. That's what I did the other night. And I highly recommend, like I said, checking out the documentary, which is free on YouTube. Just type in Stallone Rocky IV doc or something. It'll pop up. I think it's 90 minutes and really cool. It's really cool to get his thought process, why he's decided to do this, why he's making the creative choices he is. And you know, I watched that before I actually watched the movie. So going into the movie, I sort of knew kind of what to expect and how he was approaching it. And, you know, it's cool, but it's lost a bit of its spice. You know, which again was the intention. That was the intention, right? So it's not like it's a mistake. That was the intention, to maturize the film up a bit, right? But in doing that, it loses a bit of its spunk and a bit of its luster and a bit of its, you know, and because that's what made Rocky, that's why people love watching Rocky IV, is because of that over-the-top sensationalism, you know, and how it's basically just a 90-minute MTV music video of training montages or whatever. I mean, it's great. But I will say the training montages are still there, you know, and the color correction's a bit different. They've color corrected a few scenes a bit more cool. I know that a lot of the when he's training outside in Russia, which is actually up here in Canada. I don't know where he is. I think he might be in Alberta, maybe somewhere in rural Alberta or something, where you can see mountains. Those mountains you see are not in Russia. Those are well, they would be the Canadian Rockies. But what's cool is that it's kind of fucking cool, because I don't go out west very often, but it's like, yeah, it's really cool that we have mountains like that out there. The thing is that, yeah, the training montage was color corrected differently. It's blue. It's more cooler, which makes sense. It's winter. And then the scene with him in on the stairs talking to Adrian was color corrected differently too. It's a bit cooler. But everything's still there. I mean, it's still there. It's just different. So I recommend it. If you're a Rocky fan, if you're a fan of Rocky IV, check it out, watch it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You know, is it something that you think you would watch a lot? Or do you think that you're going to stick to the theatrical cut? I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's go over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. I know, I think one super chat came in, if I'm not mistaken. Super chat comes in here from Jesus Freak Bobby Reeves, says $4.99, says, hey Dave, would you do a video on Mara Murray like you did with Elisa Lam? Very interesting case with many rabbit holes. I know quite a bit about the Mara Murray case. I've been following it for quite a few years. Probably not. And the reason is because there isn't anything I could say that already hasn't been said. There are hundreds of videos on this, and it would take video upon video, like you just said, all the stuff, video upon video upon video. It's so convoluted and deep dived and saturated, and it's sort of a turn off rather than a turn on. You know, and I just don't think I could do it. I don't think I could say anything or bring any new insights that haven't already been said. And it's just so, the layers are so deep, and it's just, a 90-minute show just wouldn't do it justice. You know, I mean, I could give a Cole's Notes version, but I mean, maybe I'll talk about it sometime, but it's not at the forefront. No, it's not on my radar at the moment. Anyway, at the moment, if you hear any, like, we got people out here cutting down trees. There's a tree out here that's dead that they're trying to cut down. Evil Alex says, Rocky Balboa has the perfect ending for the franchise. I couldn't agree more. Although I did like the Creed movie, and I didn't mind Creed 2, Rocky Balboa, I think, is the quintessential ending to the franchise. And the reason for that is simple. It's always been about Rocky and Adrian. That was the point. And even though Adrian was not alive in Rocky Balboa, which made perfect sense, that was I was going to talk about the Apollo thing too, which I'll get back to. You know, at the end of Rocky Balboa, when he's at her grave and he says, "Yo, Adrian, we did it," and then he walks away and he fades out. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It bookended so beautifully. And then they did Creed, and Creed was a good movie. But then Rocky's back, and then he's got cancer. But then all of a sudden he's alive again in part 2. And now he's going home again to his son. I'm like, I don't want to see Rocky Balboa in Creed 3. I don't even think there's a need for Creed 3, because I've said many times, you know, avenging your father's death really is the pinnacle. You know, so if they want to turn Creed into a series, and not that they can't do it, but it almost feels like they peaked too soon. I mean, you know, and there's no need for him to fight Clubber Lang's son. Why? It has nothing to do with Apollo. That makes no fucking sense. You know, it really leave it alone. It's over. It's fucking over. You did it. You made a Creed movie, which is great. You made Creed 2, which is okay. It's, you know, had the DRAGO. Okay, I get it. It was great. You know, it was fine. Whatever voice that was. But Rocky Balboa, that's it, man. I could not agree with you more. It brings it full circle. It brings it home. That's the end. That's it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, what I was going to say about Apollo, Sly says in that documentary that if he had to do it over again, he wouldn't have killed Apollo. And I'm like, why? I know Carl Weathers was a little like, fuck off. This is not about you. You aren't Apollo, Carl. You know, it's about story, you know, and it makes sense. It's like when Han Solo died, or, you know, I don't believe in arbitrarily killing characters for no reason, just for emotional impact. But this is Rocky 4, okay? This is I mean, you know, it made sense. It made sense. The weight and the stakes and the gravity of that is huge. Far more huge than Sylvester's suggestion of that he would have kept him alive, but just in a wheelchair. And then Apollo would have become the new Mickey figure. No, he was already your Mickey figure. You know, in Rocky 3, when he was able-bodied, he was perfectly fine. He was, you know, he got that eye of the tiger, man. He got that eye of the tiger. And he took over for Mickey in that movie. He could be Mickey regardless of whether he was injured or not. You didn't need him in a wheel. I understand that it's really more about Apollo than it is Rocky, and him being in the wheelchair would probably humble Apollo a bit more, and he would change as a person, and we could get to see that change. I understand that. I get it. But at the end of the day, Apollo dying, I think, was the right choice to make, because it added so much weight to his life. You know, and when you look at Rocky now and you look at how he loses Apollo, and then later in life he loses his wife, and then by Creed he's lost Paulie, you know, as well. And so, like, I just find that there's, you know, this, seeing his life like that over decades is amazing, really, at the end of the day. Even with the Creed films in there, it's really cool to see that. And I think it was the right choice to make. You know, you never want to kill a character, especially a beloved character like Apollo Creed. But it's the fourth movie. And, you know, you think to yourself, what are the stakes here? How are we advancing the narrative so we're not just doing the same thing over again, right? And I don't know if having DRAGO injure Apollo to the point where he's wheelchair bound, okay, yeah, that's awful, sure. But his death, it means so much more. It means so much more, you know? So I wouldn't have changed that. I disagree with Sly on that one. I wouldn't have changed it. Happy Sanjo sends in $5 and says, when are we going to get an original idea type of film in the vein of It's Me, Billy? Your camera work was amazing. You are an inspiration. Well, thank you very much, Happy Sanjo. Appreciate that. Well, you know, first of all, we have to remember that making movies takes a lot of money. And, you know, when you want to make movies at the professional level and you want to, I'm not saying that you have to have a lot of money. It depends on what your standards and goals are. I can go out, make a movie with my phone and shoot on 8K and make it look pretty darn good. And, you know, whatever the case is. But, you know, if you want to make a professional film with a crew and actors and you know, the best gear that in the business, and like what we did with It's Me, Billy, that costs money. You know, people have to remember that It's Me, Billy was a $64,000 movie. Now that's ultra low budget by Hollywood. That's no budget by Hollywood. But it's still $64,000 movie. That's not a movie you just shoot on your phone in your backyard. So, and now because that's the bar we've set for ourselves, which was intentional, anything we do from here on out has to be at least that, right? I mean, that's what you do, right? You want to advance yourself. So I can't say too much right now. There are things that are happening. There are things that are in the works. There's a number of things that are in the works and that are happening. I can't say too much. The reason why I can't say too much is just because it's just a little too early yet. There's just we're just maybe like a stage or two before we can feel comfortable in saying that we're working on X. And that doesn't mean that X is still going to come to fruition. But we'd be in a better position where we feel comfortable kind of saying kind of what we're doing. We're just a little early still, but there are things we're working on, and things that we're working on that would be at that level and then some, maybe even a lot some. So it's exciting. It's exciting. We're just too early right now. You know, there's lots of things going on, but certainly, yeah, no, it's I appreciate the compliment, really, really do. And I'm glad that Billy can be an inspiration for you and can be an inspiration for anybody, you know, and like I always say, and I don't say this, I say this because I think it's important that people do understand, you know, I always say it's not lost on us that we have access or connections to certain things and people that the average person may not, working in the film industry. So, you know, not everybody can go out and shoot a movie on the Arri Alexa, for example, right? Or hire a professional crew, or even begin or know how to begin the process of doing that. So, you know, we do recognize, and I always say that because I never want to give people any unrealistic expectations where, oh yeah, no problem, you just go ahead and shoot. You know, we have to be realistic about things, right? But having said that, anybody can make a movie, and I always tell people, understand film fundamentals, like understand, you know, camera angles, understand lighting, understand how to craft your shots, you know, and you can go and shoot a really good movie on your phone. You know, the problem is that when people don't understand how to shoot or what to do, they're just doing this all the time, right? And they're just doing this, or they'll have like one angle for 5 minutes and they're just doing this, or it's shaky a lot or whatever. You really have to understand, you know, watch movies and understand how movies are made, understand lighting, you know, and things like that. And there's lots of videos online and tons of videos that can give you like basic 101, you know, like really simple, not not too like, oh, that's too much. No, not too much information, just basic 101 stuff. And if you have a basic understanding of camera angles and lighting, woo, just a basic understanding, it will improve your film huge. Even if you're just shooting on your phone, you know, everybody's got to start somewhere. And, but anyway, yeah, no, I appreciate the compliment, man. I do. And it's always cool to get that kind of feedback because, you know, it's the best kind of feedback. You know, people have to remember that the film cost $64,000, but we didn't make anything off of it. We made zero, nothing, zilch, zero, nada. We did it for the love of making movies and obviously to showcase what we can do as filmmakers. And hopefully that helps, you know, it acts as a portfolio piece and can help us, right? Obviously that's part of it. But the fact that, you know, we didn't get paid shows you that we, you know, we did this for the love of making movies, you know, and when somebody says, wow, dude, that's inspiring. And, you know, it's inspired me to go off and do this or that or whatever. That's fucking amazing. That's amazing, dude. And that means a lot. Sincerely, it means a lot. Go after your dreams, folks. Seriously. Okay. Mud Numb. There is an idea for Rocky 7 though. Stallone said the studio wants it. It's about him training an immigrant. It's, Stallone would be, yeah, just let it go. Let it fucking go. Stop. I don't give a frog's fat ass if he's training. I don't care. And it has nothing to do with an immigrant. It has nothing to do with that. I get, of course, that would definitely be something that the studios would be all over because it's you know, it's a very sort of inclusive kind of, I get it. I totally get it. But let it go. Let it go. One of the biggest problems and it's all because of money, obviously, but it's like, just let it go. No one to stop. The Rocky story's done. Come up with a different idea. You know, I had this idea, and I don't care if anybody, well, you can't copyright an idea anyway. But I had this idea where there was these two, and maybe it's been done, I don't know. But I was out for a jog one day, and this past summer maybe, and these two guys rode by me on a bike, on two bikes, right? And one was a black guy and one was a white guy. And they were laughing. And just as they rode by me, they're laughing, hamming it up. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, that's cool, right? You know what I mean? And I was like, I wonder what their story is, because they're different races, obviously, right? And I had this idea where there is like these neighbors that live next door to each other. One's a black guy, one's a white guy. They're black family, white family, and they hate each other at first, right? Maybe the white guy is racist towards them. Maybe the black guy is. Who knows, right? Or whatever. There's tension there because of race. Race is an issue, right? And then eventually they're in competition with each other all the time, for whatever reason, over the stupidest shit. I could totally see this being almost like a dramedy almost, like it's got some comedy in it too. But anyways, they end up becoming the best of friends, even though they hated each other at the beginning, because they end up cycling across the country for whatever reason. Like one of them, I don't know who it is. Maybe it's the black guy, decides to cycle across the country for cancer or, whatever it is, right? I don't know, the juicy details, but because the other guy is so like, oh yeah, they're in competition with each other. The other one agrees to do it too, even though he's got no business in doing it, right? And really what it's about is, yes, it's about whatever cause it is that is causing this thing to happen, but it's really about watching them become the best of friends. And they fall in love with each other, not in love in that way. I just mean they fall in love in a friendship way. Like they just adore each other by the end of the movie, and maybe they help each other along the way over certain issues in their lives and things like that. And we see them, right? Maybe they're camping out and, one time or, whatever, or they get into maybe they're biking on certain terrain and one guy's on the verge of death and the other one has to save the other guy or whatever. We've seen movies like that before. It's not original. But that's not what I'm working on, by the way, just so people know. That's not That's not what I'm working on. It was just that idea came to me all because I was out jogging, and these two guys who happen to be two different races, and race is a hot button thing again in the world. They just happened to ride by on their bikes, laughing, and I was like, it just came to me. And I thought that was kind of a cool, feel good, cool kind of film. Oh, that's the point I was making, right? Is that do something original like that, like do that. Or do like, why does Rocky, he's like 80, like, fuck, and I just think, what are you going to do with really what it's about is the immigrant coming from this is what it's about. This is totally what it's about. It's about an immigrant coming to America who's down on his luck. He's Rocky, but he's an immigrant. And Rocky sees him in himself and decides to train him. And then he becomes like the champion, or maybe not the champion. He goes the distance. It's Rocky with an immigrant, and Rocky is Mickey. That's really what this is probably going to be. Who cares? Enough. Who cares? Do something else. Anyway. Yeah. Kind of funky. I don't care though. Let me see here. What do you got? Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, if you have to choose a Rocky movie in your life, which one got to be in your mind? If I had to choose a Rocky movie, well, I mean, the first one, probably the first and the fourth one, maybe, the first one because it's the classic, and the fourth one because it's just so much damn fun. Let's see. Dalton Barron says, can you tell us if you're working on a horror or not? Is it psychological horror? I don't want to say too much at the moment. I just want to be in a better sort of there's a few things, that are happening behind the scenes at the moment. So, yeah, I'll just say that, but hopefully you'll know soon. Hopefully. Harry Hagen, my man, says, I saw a re-edit of Halloween Resurrection, and while it's still not good, it's better than the theatrical. Do you think this is going to be the new trend, going back to something you created and changing it? Probably not. No, I think you might see fans do that a lot, cutting their own because they have copies of the movies, and as long as they don't make money off of it, they just throw it up there as the this cut or the that cut. But the actual studios, I don't think the studios are going to be green lighting. It's just because at the end of the day, it's all about making money. And MGM, for whatever reason, thought that we could make a little bit of money doing this, or maybe they didn't spend a lot of money to make it happen, and they thought, well, we could probably make a bit of money off of this. It's all about making money, and if the studios thought they could make hundreds of millions of dollars off of re-releasing, re-edits of, films and things like that, well, they would. But I don't think it's a trend you're going to see. I think you will see it with fans on YouTube because we've already seen that, right? So I think you'll see that. But an actual, I don't think this is the catalyst to start this. I don't think so. Because I also don't think I don't think the response to Rocky versus DRAGO has been to the degree for which it would be noticeable. Like, whoa, this is getting universal acclaim and everybody's talking about it. Bzz, 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 the buzz. Holy shit. It's, the leading story on Entertainment Tonight. Have you seen the Rocky versus? No, it's just, it came in I'm late to the party here. It hasn't even been out a week and nobody gives a shit now, So no, I don't think so. Andrew Stevens says, hey, we got over 71 people watching. Let's help Dave out there throw the like. Yes, thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's right. I knew I wasn't going to get a lot of people today because A, it was a little impromptu, and B, I'm talking Rocky and my viewers, well, except for the 70 people watching right now, don't give a shit. So,
oh, he's not talking. Okay, but is Sylvester Stallone in Halloween Ends?
No.
I don't fucking care.
Okay. I don't fucking care about you. I don't fucking care about you, fucking son of a bitch. Adam Galloway says, do you prefer Rocky 2 or Rocky Balboa? I haven't seen Rocky 2 in a while, so I'm going to say Balboa at the moment just because I've watched it more recently, but I do like 2. I got to watch 2 again. I like 2 a lot. Rick Baker says, I like the new Apollo fight with Drago because the death blow comes as Rocky is reaching for the towel. I felt it was in his hand too long in the theatrical version. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. There's little bits and pieces like that kind of make more sense. But because you're so used to seeing it one way, you notice it. Like it really stands out, and you notice that. But certainly, yeah, I certainly, there's definitely, I can't help but think that if you combined the best of both, what kind of Rocky movie would that be? Because for some reason, I feel like the scenes with Apollo, when he's sitting outside talking to him in front of Rocky's mansion, and the added scene of Adrian and Rocky in the kitchen, and the added scene of Adrian and Rocky at the top of the stairs where he's like, don't ask me not to be a man or whatever. I can't help but feel that you could just add those into the theatrical cut and have the rest of the movie play out the same. Maybe I'm wrong. It would add maybe another 2 or 3 minutes to the movie, but I'm like, that's what director's cuts are usually longer versions. I don't know. I don't know. I'd be very curious to see it. I just want to say I would be very curious to see it. Very curious to see it. The Slaughtered Lamb says, there is, however, a Rocky IV Carpenter connection. Is there? Way too easy, though. Rocky IV Carpenter connection? Ooh, I'm having a brain fart. Do I know this? Maybe I do, and I'm just having a brain fart. I wonder what that is. Frank Reiger says, Dave, who would you say had the worst time dealing with death? Mickey with Rocky or Apollo with Duke? Mickey with Rocky? You mean Rocky with Mickey, Duke with Apollo, right? I know what you mean. I would probably say Mickey with Rocky. I'd probably say, at least on screen, at least on screen. There's that scene in Rocky 3 where he's just lost the fight and he's leaning over Mickey and he's just sobbing like crazy, right? And Mickey's always on his mind. He's always in the back of his head. Again, that doesn't mean that Duke wouldn't pine for Apollo, but I think actually seeing it, the representation of that on screen, I would say, yeah, I think they did a better job with Mickey, for sure. Adam Galloway says, what is your favorite non-Rocky or non-Rambo Stallone flick? Ooh, I got to say it's probably between, top 3 for me is probably Demolition Man. This is no particular order, but Demolition Man, Cliffhanger, and Copland. I love Copland. But again, he's playing that. It's like a drama. He was terrific in that. I think. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Anyway, fantastic film. Harry Hagen sends in $2, says, fans thought they willed Zack Snyder's JL2's existence. Yes, they did. Yeah, no, I've talked about that on the channel many times. And again, I think the it's because there's no nuance, right? So was there a loud fan base that wanted Zack Snyder's Justice League? Absolutely. Did the studio take notice? Sure, of course. But Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 or Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh, wait a minute. No, unless you're talking about something else, Harry. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Is there something I'm not aware of? Are fans did something happen where people thought fans thought they willed Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 into existence? Did something happen? I thought you were talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League for a moment, and then I was going to recycle what I've said about it. But maybe you're talking about something else. Just at me and let me know. Slaughtered Lamb says, Tony Burton Duke is one of the leads in Assault on Precinct 13. Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right, he is. I totally forgot about that. Haven't seen that movie in a while. You're right. You are correct. Patrick Ring says, Copland was a great movie. Could not agree more. It was filmed in my hometown, New Jersey. Yep, I live in Copland. Watched many scenes being filmed. Very cool. Yeah, 1997, I believe that movie came out. And yeah, it's a great film. And a great cast. Great film, great cast. Just great all around. Great all around for sure. Mike W. says, that's right. Yeah, that's a slaughtered lamb. That's correct. Danita Brown says, oh, Cliffhanger was one of my faves. Yeah, Cliffhanger was good. Cliffhanger was the movie that sort of, Stallone was having a bit of a downturn there in the late 80s, early 90s. And then, that movie sort of sprung him back a little bit. And then he kind of went down again. But I don't mind Tango and Cash. I like Tango and Cash as well. Cobra is really good. But I would say that outside of Rocky, when I think of Sylvester Stallone, I think of Copland, Cliffhanger, Demolition Man for sure. Demolition Man was a good movie. I believe that was Sandra Bullock's first movie. I remember seeing that in the theater. It came out in 93, I believe, so I would have been 14. I remember seeing that in the movie theater. And yeah, I think that was Sandra Bullock's first movie, if I'm not mistaken. Mike W says, Dave, what's your least favorite Stallone movie? Mine is Judge Dredd, pretty much unwatchable. Even, you know what? I got to say, guilty pleasure. I like Judge Dredd. I'd throw that in there as well. I like Judge Dredd. I am the law. I'll be the judge of that. I like Judge Dredd. I do. I know. I do. But my least, you know what? And I got to say, guilty pleasure. I even have fun watching Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Oh, it's a terrible movie, but I love it in terms of just, it's a guilty pleasure. I love watching Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. But my least favorite Stallone movie, maybe Assassins, maybe with Antonio Banderas. I was never really a big fan of Assassins. I'd have to watch it again though. It's been years. I'd have to watch Oscar again as well. That comedy he did. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really remember much from that. So I'd have to watch it again, but I'm not sure. Yeah, Demolition Man is great. Nathan, I could not agree more. I don't think hang on, I just want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats. No, it's just those. Okay, good. Just making sure. Get that out of there. I'm just closing tabs here. I have too many tabs open. All right. Harry Hagen follows up and says, I was talking about the director's cut of Justice League. Oh, okay. Fans thought they made the studio crumble to their demands, not thinking about it was a vehicle for HBO Max. Demolition Man is underrated. I could not agree more. Oh, right. So you are talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah. No, I said the same thing before the movie even came out. And again, it's not that fans did not have, that the studio could not hear the fans, but studios do not make decisions, multi-million-dollar decisions, over what fans want. That doesn't, but again, it's nuanced. It doesn't mean that there aren't certain things that a studio will make that is fan friendly. It doesn't mean that they don't know, because they do understand trends and they follow what's hot, what's not, of course, right? This is all, marketing. They do know what is likely to get a pop or, whatever the case is. Sure, of course. But at the end of the day, Warner Brothers didn't make that decision because the fans wanted it. And it's not surprising, of course, because this is just good PR. The president of Warner Brothers at the time came out and said, I think it was in the Hollywood Reporter, said, we heard the fans and we thought now was a good time to do this. Bullshit. As you said, and I said months before it even came out, I said, this is a vehicle for HBO Max. They heard your cries a year ago and they said nothing. Why? Because they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They're not making decisions because little Bobby Sue wants it. That's not how it works. It's a multi-million-dollar endeavor here. You don't make decisions based on fanboy angst. That's just not what you do. And it's not, again, that doesn't mean that certain decisions are not made that might seem like that, or that might just naturally appeal to certain fans. Sure. But they're not arbitrarily, well, I guess we gotta, the fans all want this. Let's go do it. There's a lot of these decisions are made by committee, and there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. And so there's just a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. Having said that, no, you're right. It was a vehicle for HBO Max. And, if it was really about the fans, if there was, as I've said many times, if this was really a virtuous decision, because you were owed it, right? There are some fans out there that feel that the Justice League chants worked and that they got what they were owed. Well, no. If you are owed something, you're not asked to pay for it. And the reason for that is because you're owed it. You are owed this. But that's not what happened. There's nothing virtuous about Warner Brothers' decision at all. It was HBO Max. We're going to use this to get people to watch HBO Max, and we're going to charge people. And that's what it's about. It's smart business. They're exploiting you is what they're doing. It's not framed that way because, it doesn't sound nice, right? Even though we're exploited all the time. We're exploited all the time, right? It doesn't sound nice. And there are degrees and levels to, obviously, right? I'm going to the extreme to make a point. But no, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And, we want Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 2. Why haven't they done it? Because they don't care. They did it once. It didn't do as well as they thought, so they stopped. But you're absolutely right. This had very little to do with, again, it's not that the fans weren't heard or they didn't know there were fans out there, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the litmus test of whether it's yes or no. No, it was, we have a streaming service that we need subscribers on, and we know a lot of people would like to see this, so we're going to exploit that, and we're going to charge you to watch it. That's what it is. That's business. What else we got going here? The Slaughtered Lamb says, don't watch Oscar again, Dave. You'll be the only person who did that. Yeah, didn't it come out? I think it was like the late 80s, early 90s, 92, maybe 91. Hey, Google, what year did the movie Oscar come out?
In the United States of America, Oscar was released on April 26, 1991.
1991. Okay, so I was close. I was fairly close. 1991.
Yeah, so Google can improve. It would help to know how satisfied you are with that answer. How would you rate it if one's the worst and five's the best?
5. Had to rate my electronic girlfriend there. Harry Hagen follows up and said with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Harry, and says, have you ever seen shilling? Have you ever witnessed shilling or offered money for a false review? I have, and I can't believe that I've seen popular YouTubers say it doesn't exist. It does. Well, Harry, I have not been offered anything like that, nor would I do that. It's not that it doesn't exist. It does, but it's a broad spectrum. People have to understand that shilling happens all the time. And, there's something called Oscar season, right? What do you think Oscar season is? It's just one gigantic shill bag. Okay. And what I mean by that is, and this has been happening for decades, right? Is the exchange of money is a difficult thing because then you're bribing and depending on the rules and the laws and things like that can be problematic. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on, studio executives, filmmakers taking out certain people to lunch or to dinner who they know are Academy voting members, and it doesn't always work, but there's a lot of schmoozing and a lot of cozy schmoozing that does go on. And I think what it is, what does not exist, okay, in the volume that people think it does, what irritates me and I think some people is, again, It's nuanced, okay? It's not that it doesn't exist, but it feels like every time somebody has a different opinion or says something that is different from somebody else's, they are labeled a shill, or they're labeled, you've been bought and paid for. The studios don't generally do that, okay? Or at all. And, you know, they're not generally, again, I don't work for a studio, but what I know people who do, and generally speaking, a studio is not going to give Chris Stuckman, you know, $10,000 to talk nicely about his movie. If they wanted to influence Chris Stuckman, there's more of a grooming process, right? It's more of an incentive, or you know, there's certain perks or you know, things like that. But it's not black and white like that. It's not black and white like that, right? It's not you know, again, too many people who don't work in the business see certain things and make giant leaps of assumptions based on how they feel about something. And it's much more nuanced than that, because in a lot of cases, the exchange of money for votes or whatever is illegal. And so it has to be very carefully done. The influence you want to have on a voting member or a reviewer or whatever it is has to feel organic. It has to feel well played. It has to feel not intrusive. And it certainly can't get out there that, you know, Disney just paid, you know, Richard Roper 10 grand to talk to, I mean, that can't happen, right? So it's generally not like that. And I don't know who you're talking about, but I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who specifically you know who has been bribed with money to talk positively about a movie, but I can tell you that the studios are not tossing money to reviewers for them to talk positively about their films. But that doesn't mean, like I said, there's a thing called Oscar season. We're in it right now. And, you know, there are dinners and schmoozing and getting on people's good sides. And, you know, that happens. It does, 100%. And you hope that they vote for your movie or because you bought them dinner or whatever. That does happen. But it's not, sometimes I imagine sometimes it can, you know, I think both parties know what's going on. I don't think anybody's fucking stupid, but it's not like, you know, Richard Roper gets a check in the mail from Disney. That just doesn't, you know, that's illegal, you know, and it can't happen. It doesn't happen that way. So in terms of the YouTubers, I don't know which YouTubers you're talking about. It hasn't happened to me. I've been called a shill many times, and I just laugh because it's from somebody who just doesn't understand how it works. And just because somebody has a different opinion doesn't mean that they are automatically a shill. You know, what it could mean is that they are afraid. This can happen, right? So when you are a movie reviewer or a YouTuber or something to that degree, and you reach a certain level where you have hundreds of thousands of subs, a huge following or whatever, and you get incentives from the studios, but incentives that are not personal. They're incentives that they you know, you get like a press kit, you know, and but you're not the only one that's getting it. You know, it's not like, you know, dear Dave McRae, thank you so much for talking positively about our movie. You know, it would be more like a press kit or you know, you're able to be on a list where maybe you get invited to a premiere or something to that degree, right? You know, I think some people feel that they're going to lose some of the perks that sometimes can happen when you reach a certain level, whether in your work, in your line of work or whatever the case is. And there is nobody telling them to talk negatively about their movie. Nobody's saying, don't you fucking talk negatively about our movie, or we're not going to give you that little press kit, you little bitch. That's not happening. But they themselves might feel that they don't want to they feel that might affect that. So sometimes you can pick up on that, like, why are they not? What's going on here? But there isn't anything coming from the studio that's saying they can't do that. The studios know when their films go out there, it's free game. People are going to like their movies. Some people are not going to like their movies. That's the business. That's just how it is, right? They know that. And that's part of the way it is. So, again, and I'm not saying that you haven't seen that. I'm not in your shoes. But from what I know, which is not, again, I mean, I'm not neck deep in the studio side of the business, but I do know a little bit about it. And I know people that work for studios, major studios, and that's not how it works. It's perceived that way by the and I'm not saying this is you. I'm just mean in general, right? It can be perceived that way by the disgruntled fanboy, because their favorite YouTuber is not talking positively about what they talk, or they've changed their mind all of a sudden, right? In a genuine way. They've suddenly thought, whatever, I went back and I went, you're a shell or whatever. And that's just not how it works. Not in my estimation anyway. In terms of like free stuff and, free passes and, we're going to give you all this free, and we're going to send you a check every month and it's just not how it works. It's illegal to do that. It's bribery, and depending on your state or whatever. I mean, I know laws can vary from state to state, but it can be really problematic. And the studios would not put themselves in that position. It's the equivalent of, in baseball, having somebody in the stands, sign calling, right? Where the pitcher is there and they're able to see, or the batter is able to see what the signs are. And you can't do that. It's been done, but when they're caught, it's a huge deal. And these studios don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with that. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen with maybe under the radar, small independent production companies, maybe maybe. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in terms of like people who are Disney shills because they get paid to talk positively, these are just people that just don't know how it works. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. There's too much at stake. Harry follows up with, one person is John Flickinger? Not sure. Used to be good friends with Chris Stuckman. Said he was straight up approached to not give a bad review and he would be compensated. I've seen it too with friends. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I don't know who that would have been. Who is he talking about? What studio is he talking about? Did he mention the studio? I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know the guy. Again, I can't say that it doesn't happen, but I will say that there is a blanket of there's a blanket of mistrust that is just sort of tossed over anybody that speaks negatively about a movie that maybe they once spoke positively on, or maybe they've changed their tune, and there's just a sort of to paint it with a brush that they're a shill. That I'm telling you, it doesn't happen like that. That's not to say that this guy John, it didn't happen to him, but who was it? What studio? Was it one of the big studios? Was it a production company? Who was it, right? Who was it? Was it the filmmaker? Was it the studio? Because that's different. It's very different. But it doesn't happen. Not in the ways that people think it does. People think it does. People form but it's generally because they don't understand how it works. Of how it doesn't mean there's not shady shit that doesn't go on. I'm just saying that the blatant, if they want to have an effect on a reviewer, it's generally done through more grooming means, in a more sort of, not in a illegal way, just in a like I said, Oscar season, a lot of the times filmmakers might take out voting members and, all that kind of stuff. A couple super chats came in, said, Mr. Bate sends in 499, says, Dave, cut the act. We all know you're the biggest shill for Disney on YouTube. Oh, I am. You kidding? I'm cashing a $10 million check this afternoon. Gavin _the nerd sends in $5, says, hey, Dave, huge fan. I showed my friend Caleb, not a fan, the first Halloween, and he said the lack of motive itself could be considered a supernatural edge. Sure. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. That's the anonymity and the unknown aspect of that is true. Happy Sanjo says, Dave McShill. I'm a huge McShill. Sounds like a hamburger at McDonald's. Mr. Bates says, Dave, bought Walt Disney's head with all the Rise of Skywalker money. I did. Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, I've been called the shill before, and I just laugh. I have people say that to me about Halloween Kills, because I chose to focus on what I liked about Halloween Kills. I didn't say I liked Halloween Kills. I said I chose to focus on what I did like about it in my tweets, right? And there's that one guy on that other channel, I forget his name now, who says that he's convinced. He is convinced 100% that I am too afraid to talk negatively about Halloween Kills because I am in with Jason Blum and I do not want to upset Blum. He's convinced. He did a whole fucking video on it. He's convinced of it. Even after I came out and said, no, you're wrong, and here's why, he's convinced of it. And it's like, these are people that just, with all due respect, you just don't know your ass from your elbow with how it works. Not you, Harry. I mean, this other guy, right? It's like, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. That's not how it works. Hey, Jason Blum, I thought your Black Christmas reboot was dog shit. There, I said it. I mean, come on. I'm sure deep down he's probably like, yeah, it was dog shit. And it has nothing to do with, female empowerment. I think that's a noble thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just wrong IP, man. Wrong IP. Wasn't the right movie. So yeah, it is what it is. But again, Harry, I'm not saying that those people that are lying. I'm not saying that. I would just need to know more detail. I need to know more and what it is, who it is they're talking about, who they work for, and what, level they're at. Because again, we have to remember that when somebody says the studio contacted me, well, who from the studio contacted you? Who are you talking to at the studio? I mean, there's a lot of different positions at the studio. And we have to remember that there could be somebody, that if they found out, it could be somebody who works for a studio, that if the studio found out what they did, they'd be fired. So, it's not necessarily the studio that's saying these things. It could just be some rogue guy in the studio, who's like, hey, dude, come on, talk nicely about this, whatever, right? Who knows? A lot of variables at play. I got that. Okay, what do we got? Another, okay, no, that's not too bad. I think I got, yeah, I think so. Hell, watch out, Jack says, Jason Blum is like John Carpenter. Every time they make a movie, I get a paycheck. It's true. Oh yeah, I get a paycheck every time. Blum loves me. He loves me so much. He loves my YouTube channel so much. He probably doesn't. He probably doesn't know who I am. Yeah, they send me checks. All the time. I'm like, Dave, we just love who you are. We just love your theatrical nature. We love you, who you are. So we're just going to send you a check. Yeah. That's how I survive. I've quit voiceover. I just, that's it. Yeah. Every month I get a $10,000 check, and it's what I live off of. Yeah. 120 grand a year just from Blum. It's amazing. Evil Alex says, Black Christmas 2019 is propaganda, not a film. I agree. I think I've often said it's a political message with a movie attached to it. And it's unfortunate because it's just too on the nose. It's just too on the nose. It's too preachy and condescending. And I know a lot of women who didn't like it either, as I've said many times. And that's not my white cis male. It has nothing to do with that. I'm looking at it as a film and as a Black Christmas movie. And it's just, if it wasn't called Black Christmas and it was just called Slay Girls, like SLAY, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But it feels like you're riding on the coattails of an IP and you're exploiting it, which is exactly what they were doing. and I've always said, and I don't have any evidence of this, but I believe this was Jason Blum's answer to not having enough women horror directors. I've said that. I don't know that for sure, but it wasn't long before he announced this suddenly out of the nowhere Black Christmas movie that he had to apologize for saying that there weren't a lot of female horror directors. I'm paraphrasing, but there aren't. He's not wrong. And the fact that he had to apologize for that is just ridiculous. There's something like that. And then like 6 months later, all of a sudden we have a female writer and director doing a Black Christmas remake. It's like, it seemed like he needed, it seemed like damage control, right? But no, I didn't like that movie. I didn't, it's not Black Christmas. It's not Black Christmas. You know, it's a 90-minute PSA at the end of the day. Mike W. says, I haven't seen the Blumhouse version of Black Christmas and don't plan to. I did see It's Me, Billy, though. Blumhouse should have hired Dave to make their that for them. Hey, you know, still open. If they ever wanted to reboot it, you know, Bruce and I are open to talking. I mean, it's definitely, you know, and people have to remember, like, again, you know, It's Me, Billy is episodic, right? So you're essentially watching like the first half of a movie. We have a whole other half that we'd love to tell. So, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I do think the approach we took was the right approach to take. It's the nostalgia approach. You know, it's where you're advancing it, you're answering questions, but creating new ones. And I think it was the right approach. I do. And it would have been awesome. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. Because there's never been a Black Christmas sequel, this was one of the coolest things for me. And again, this cool factor will inevitably wear off the more films I make. But because this was my first time stepping into a film at this level, and we were shooting on all Hollywood, you know, gear with a professional crew and professional actors on location in a big, huge home. There were many times, I've said it before, but I just got to say it again because it was so cool. There were many times, and because there's never been a Black Christmas sequel and we were making one, it really did feel like we were making the real sequel. You know, there were many times I felt that. I specifically remember being in the living room, and I remember we were shooting, I think, The Three Girls at the Phone, where we have that nice close-up shot where we track from right to left across Shelby's face, Victoria, and then Malika. And of course, I'm watching it on the monitor, it's just the feeling. It just was like everything felt so legit, so pro, because it was. And we're sitting there, and I remember turning to Bruce going, "It feels like we're fucking shooting the Black Christmas sequel." You know, it was a really cool feeling. A really cool feeling. I don't know if I would have had that if there had been like so many Black Christmas fan films and all that kind of stuff, or if there really had been a Black Christmas sequel, and then it might not have felt that way. But because the Black Christmas universe is essentially untapped, you know, there's just nothing. It really felt that way. And it was one of the coolest feelings in the world. I can't believe that we're essentially less than a week away from 1 year when we went to production on it. We started shooting on November 23rd. I can't believe we're almost a year. It's unbelievable. A year has gone by already. It's fucking crazy. But anyway, yeah, hey man, Bruce and I, our phones are on. If Blumhouse ever wanted to seriously reboot Black Christmas and do a sequel, we'd love to do it. We got the perfect template. We got the perfect. We have the perfect concept. Who knows? Maybe they've already seen it. I have no idea. It's possible. You never know who watches that stuff. Happy Sanjo sends in $5, says, Dave, what do you think of Black Christmas? I think it's from 2005. No, it's from 2006. Oh, Black Xmas from 2006. Yeah. It's a reboot of Black Christmas. Sorry if you've talked about it before. Appreciate it. No, I have talked about it before. It's from 2006. It's called Black Xmas, is the actual title. I don't like it because I think it is just ridiculous. Having said that, I give credit where credit is due, and it's not the same movie. They didn't just do the same thing over again. They did make it their own, and so it is what it is, but it's not, it's too eccentric for me. It's too silly for me. You know, Billy and the eating the human, you know, flesh cookies and incest and the way he is, and he's got jaundice and the way Agnes is played by a dude and it's too gimmicky to me. It's too shticky. I want something serious. So, you know, I mean, I've only seen it like once or twice. It's not one that I have in my collection. It's not one I am eager to watch again. I've seen it. I know what it is. I don't need to see it again. So I'm not a big fan. No surprise, I'm sure, but not a big fan. AK Channel TV says, Dave, still playing Freddy Krueger? I am. I mean, we're just, you know, the borders have begun to open here, and we're hopefully going to start Dylan's New Nightmare maybe next spring is what we're looking on it. So like, you know, maybe March, April, May, somewhere in there is what we're kind of aiming for. Again, I don't make those decisions. I'm not a producer on the project. I'm not on it in that capacity. So that's all Cecil Laird, Vincent DeSanti, and company. That's them. I'm just an actor on the part. So I get information when it's given to me. I know that Miko wants about 3 months notice so he can work out and get in shape for it. And so we haven't been given that 3 months notice yet. So, I mean, at this point, we're in the middle of November. We're probably going to wait till the end of the year and then maybe give a 3 months notice. And then maybe we shoot in April or something, or May. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. But certainly we're aiming for next year, let's say, because, and everything's ready to go. I mean, like, everybody is still on board. It's just that there's been a gigantic delay, because of COVID and largely too. I mean, I own this. It's not my fault, but it's, you know, because of me, you know, because I'm in Canada and they're in the States, and for 20 months our borders were closed for non-essential travel, you know, and so, you know, it is what it is. But yes, it is still happening, and fingers crossed that we move into production next year. That's the plan. Let's see. Let me go for another 5 minutes, folks. And then that is it. Let me see. Dalton Barron says, here's a thought experiment, Dave. What if they came to you and said, we will give you the money to make a Black Christmas remake. Only catch is your fan film is nixed. Well, that would be, my fan film is nixed. Do you mean like the film that they want me to do is not based on my fan film, or the film that they want me to do, I have to delete my fan film in order for, I just tell them to go fuck themselves. It wouldn't make any sense. Because the way I look at it is this: if you're coming to me to ask me to direct a Black Christmas reboot, you're coming to me because of the quality. Now, if they don't come to me, it doesn't mean they didn't like it. I'm just saying that if they come to me, like if it got to that point and they came to me and said, you know, we really like this. This is an interesting direction. What else do you got? Like, you ended it, you know, on a cliffhanger. Is there more? What's going on? Things like that. They're coming to me because of the quality of It's Me, Billy, right? So it would make no sense to nix it unless, you know, they were, yeah, I no, it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. I'd say no. I would say no. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're coming to me because of the quality of the work. So, and now you want me to delete the quality of the work because you don't, why? Because I did it better than you? Well, it just, okay. You know, so no, I would not do that. I would not do that. If the question is, I couldn't do what we did, it wasn't the same story. Well, that all comes down to what they want me to do. You know, what they want me to do. You know, what is it that they want me, what is it that they would want us to write? What is their ideas? You know, or if they just said, come up with something fresh and something new. I would probably fight for what we did. And I would fight for the crew and the cast too. I think it would be an interesting, you know, again, you know, we have to remember that, yeah, I would use what we did with Billy as a template and go from there, and either either just tack on the other half and release it as a, because you could do that. I mean, you know, the quality is there. It's let's just put it this way. If I was to shoot a Black Christmas remake with Blumhouse, we'd be probably using the exact same camera we used to shoot It's Me, Billy. So I mean, you know, you'd have a bigger crew, obviously, and things like that. I'd fight to get Greg as our DP. He's a professional. He's, you know, a CSC alum. I mean, there'd be no reason why, you know, we couldn't. I'd fight for a lot of things, you know. You know, obviously, there'd be some things you'd probably have to give up and compromise on. I mean, I'm not exactly in a position that I can negotiate too heavily, but it all depends on what it is. It all depends on what the set of criteria is, of what that would be. But if they're coming to me because of It's Me, Billy, that's because they like It's Me, Billy. So I would be like, let's just do that. Or let's just tack on the end and throw it in the theater. Harry Hagen sends in $5, says, I was watching Hangin' with Mr. Cooper and saw Miko Hughes. He was a great child actor. Who was one of your favorite child actors? I would say my favorite child actor is probably Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood was tremendous, terrific. So I would say probably him. But Miko Hughes was great too. Yeah, he was great. I haven't seen Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. I don't even think I've heard of that movie. But certainly, yeah, no, that's I'd say probably that. Probably Elijah Wood. All right, folks, listen, that's going to do it for me here on episode 201 of McRae Live. Thought I'd get a McRae Live in there. Haven't done one in a while. Comment below and let me know your thoughts on Rocky versus Drago, the Rocky IV Director's Cut. Thanks to my great moderators, of course, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short. You guys are amazing. Thank you to the Super Chat questions that came in. A few of the non-Super Chat questions that came in. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I'll be back soon. I don't know. Maybe I got some interesting horror stuff coming up. I want to do some live show where I'm talking Christmas horror, and I want to compare some things, and there's a few things I got coming. But have a great rest of your Wednesday. Stay safe out there, ladies and germs, and I will talk to you very soon. Alrighty. Cheers.